So today I have a very special guest, and Kate has been on the show before. Back, I think it was episode 137. She came on and we talked about one of her books, which is how I found her, which I think was called Never Too Late. And it was this friggin' inspiring book about people who were a little bit older and maybe a lot older doing incredible things. When Kate came on the show, she also talked a lot about trail safety for women, and this was one of our most downloaded shows. So we have Kate back on today because she's now has a new book out, and I'm super excited. I'm going to give you like just the preview of the book, which is You Are Limitless, and I am so happy to have Kate here. Please welcome Kate to the show. Hey, Kate, how are you doing?
Hi, Hi, Kelly. It's so good to see you again. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I was just super excited when I saw your new book. And your books are always great, and this one is right up there with all the others. I have truly enjoyed reading it, and I've truly enjoyed reading like your story. So could you start with just a little bit about the book, and then let's dive into your story, and you can just tell people who you are and what you do and why this matters so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am heading into my sixth decade, so almost 60. I'll be 60 in April. I wore many hats, but I am a practicing mental health professional. I'm also an author. I love to write real stories about inspirational people. So everything I do is always about, real people, these incredible things. That was the inspiration for You Are Limitless, is kind of a follow-up to Never Too Late. You Are Limitless kind of meets the intersection between getting out and movement, and the importance of nature, and it really focuses on mental health. So really takes a deep dive into things like addiction, anxiety, trauma, grief, and there's also some physical health concerns. I talk about my personal story with autoimmune disease, and there's also a gentleman that's really worked through a lot of physical healing after a motorbike accident, and
Oh,
also yeah, yeah. So that's my passion. And yeah, that's who I am. I'd love to talk about whatever would be helpful.
well, let's see. Let's dive into your story first because I think it's something that a lot of my listeners will connect to on some level. And I think it's since you led with the book in the book with your story, it really set a tone of yes, things can be tough, and yes, we, are limitless. So, what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so I am a recoverer. I've recovered from I have actually two autoimmune diseases. One is pretty well controlled. It doesn't bother me at all. And the other one is rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm really bad with time, but I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, literally woke up one morning and I could not move. I mean, just from head to toe, it was seized and solid. The symptoms were kind of coming in kind of gradually, swelling and stiffness and joint pain. But it got to the point where I literally couldn't move. So that was a problem for me. So, like your listeners probably know, sometimes it's not so easy to get that diagnosis, So I jumped through the hoops. I went to the primary care doc, and she sent me to specialists, a bunch of X-rays and blood work. Anyway, landed with the diagnosis of severe rheumatoid arthritis, literally to the point where I could hardly turn on or off a tap. I could I couldn't even do my bra strap.
Oh my
Shoes were
goodness.
impossible. It was just, and at the time I was finishing up my graduate program, so I was working part-time. I had children, so life, I mean, it was just life had to go on, but it was just brutal, just
Oh
brutal.
my goodness. And you were pretty young too.
Yeah, so I was early 40s probably.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
really times. So yeah, early 40s. Yeah. But no history of autoimmune disease in our family. either. So it really came out of the blue, and it was just devastating. Just devastating. Yeah.
So let me ask you really quick. So back then, you're very, very active now, and I'd like to get into that a little bit more. But back then, you have children, you're, finishing up graduate. Are you super active at that time also?
I am pretty active. So five, of running, some yoga. I'm more active now than I was then, but life was happening then. Like I said, I was in grad
Sure.
school part time. I had children. Sometimes that limits a little bit of time, to be out there for hundreds of miles on the trail.
Right.
But I was fairly active. I've never been a kind of sedentary person.
Oh man. So you're well, let's fast forward because instead of leaving people hanging, what happened? I mean, you're healed. If you're ever healed from this, you're healed at this point and you're out doing all kinds of things. So you have this empathy for people who are going through pain and anxiety and
Mhm.
depression and addiction and all the things that happen. So take us forward to now and why you wrote this book and a little bit about your book.
Yeah. So I do. I have a huge heart for people with, addiction, loss, grief, anxiety, and also, physical health concerns. So first of all, is my personal life experience. As a child, my childhood, I laugh. My first 25 years was pretty rocky. So there's a lot of grief, loss, and trauma in that time frame for me as a young child. Lost both my parents really young, and in both tragic, unfortunate situations, kind of sent our family into this tailspin, and just it was a tough growing up, if you want to say. And then kind of fast forward, kind of got married and obviously moved countries, completely different continents, a lot of kind of moving around, and but now stable. And so currently I'm in full remission of the autoimmune disease and have been for several years. So thankful for. I'm also a mental health professional, so I work a lot at this intersection again of physical health, mental health, and just trying to encourage people to get out on the trail. And again, that is really what this book was inspired by. It's just really spreading the message that things can happen, bad things can happen, and again, anxiety, grief, loss, trauma, autoimmune diseases, they do happen. They are part of life, but we can move through them, right? We can, there's things we can do and we can move through them. And there's hope. I'm really trying to help people find a little bit of hope, in that darkness.
So yeah, hope is something that it's such an interesting word. Like I love saying that I like to help people find hope and possibilities. And I think that the last few years, people really had a little bit of a nosedive on the whole hope thing. And so now you are much like me in that you really want people to get outside and experience that whole piece. So you tell us in your words why that's so important.
I'm a big believer in the healing power of the natural world. So I've again experienced that. I have a lived experience with that. That is the way that I processed a lot of the grief and loss, my personal grief, loss, and trauma is out on the trail. I mean, I am a therapist, and I have a therapist, and I've been in therapy, but I have to tell you, being out in the woods on the trail, whether it's running or walking or hiking, I shed layers and layers and layers of grief, in the woods. I don't know what it is about the trees and the pine and the smell and the solitude, but there's just something so healing. And now I've written the book, I know a little bit more about the why behind that. There are actual kind of chemicals in the air and chemicals in the oxygen that you're breathing in, that those trees are emitting, that really give you kind of a sense of peace
So
and
can
comfort.
can you give us a little bit of that information? Because I'm always like, yeah, I got to get outside, done. So tell us a little bit
Yeah,
more, like the deeper piece of it. Not not
yeah.
well,
So
let me rephrase that. The science
yeah,
piece of
okay.
it, because the deeper piece of it is, I
Science.
think, truly heart-based.
Yeah, yeah. So this gets a little woo, but there's there is undoubtedly, a whole universal connection, right? So when we're out in the woods, we we connect with kind of unforeseen energies, right? So those trees are literally giving off this kind of life force, right? And where we're in those in the trees, in the woods, in the pines, we are breathing that in, right? We're breathing that kind of life force, if you like, in. And we're physically moving, right? So that's creating
Right.
all kinds neurochemicals in the brain and the body, and we're taking in more oxygen, right, which is also vital for some of these things like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which really are agents that really fight against and help us kind of recover from things like grief and loss, depression, sadness. So there is a physiological kind of connection again when we're out moving and breathing within the natural world.
Yeah. So there's a reason that people get prescriptions in certain parts of the world for getting out in the woods.
Absolutely,
It
absolutely. There's
absolutely
almost
changes us.
yeah,
Yeah.
it actually absolutely kind of resets this nervous system, right? Because when we're
Hmm.
working with these things, right, often our nervous system gets really dysregulated. So when you're out in the woods, it's a wonderfully natural way to kind of reset, kind of soothe, if you like, this nervous system. It's
Nice
like
way of putting it.
lotion, right? Lotion for an overactive, overstimulated nervous system. And you can feel it. I mean, you don't have to trust
Hmm.
me, right?
Right.
Go out and try it. It
You
doesn't,
can.
again, it doesn't have to
Uh-huh.
be, yeah, it doesn't have to be this massive walk or this massive hike. It can be, half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever you can imagine, you can manage. Yeah, so don't take my word for it. Go try it and let me know how it goes. Yeah.
Right? It's interesting because where I live in a big city, and there are woods, maybe 20 minutes one way and 20 minutes the other way, except that we also are quite frequently lots of traffic. So that 20 minutes is often an hour one way or the other. So I
Mm,
find that a lot of my movement is done in local parks. And they're, cement-based local parks. And there are times when all of a sudden I just physically feel that if I don't get into the woods, I'm just gonna cry. Right? It's
yeah,
just like it's a
yeah.
different feeling. Yeah. Okay, so I
And I hear you.
completely got you off subject of your book. Tell us about your book because this is why you're here, and it is such a great book. I want everybody to know about it.
So again, the book is really about, it's about hope, it's about healing, it's about people that have really come across some difficult times in their lives, and they have really moved through those difficult times, healed, if you like, through the use of nature, like kind of being out in the natural world in some way, and movement, right? So, walking, hiking, biking. So it's the intersection of those two things. And then with all my work, I intertwine a mental health piece. So there's a couple of chapters around helping with motivation, kind of mindset and that type of thing. And then at the end of the book, there's all kinds of resources and ways people can connect with groups and other books and other things as they kind of continue through this journey. Because let's face it, it is a journey, right? When we're moving through
Mhm.
anything, when we're moving through life, right? It is a journey, and it takes a team, right? It takes a
It
community.
does. It does. When you have that family, whatever they are, not even the family of origin, but just your family of people, it makes life different.
Yes.
So okay, tell one quick story. This I found amazing. It made me go, "Oh, Kelly, you have stories that you are holding yourself back with because you interviewed a woman who at 71 scaled El Capitan in Yosemite." And this is the same book if or the same pitch if anyone who is listening saw what was it? Climb? Um,
Mm,
I'm trying to think who it was. It was the gentleman who actually he free climbed El Capitan, but you see it and you realize how big this is. It's massive, and how difficult a pitch this is or climb this is. So tell us a little bit about her, because that was just blew me away.
Yeah. Yeah, so she was pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing. She's still climbing and very, very active. I linked with her through a magazine, I think, and she has a book. It's called The Sharper End of Life. And it's actually her memoir, which is wonderful. I recommend that to people to as a read. I reached out to her and I loved her story, really connected with her story because she's also has come out of a very difficult marriage, very difficult relationship that she's kind of really had to rebuild her life after many, many years of marriage. Really lost herself. I mean, she really lost herself within that marriage. And now at 70 is thriving. I mean, she's traveling and she's climbing and she really rebuilt community again and she has friends for the first time and super inspiring story.
Yeah. Just hearing you retell it, I get chill bumps because
Hmm.
things like that just it it's like the first book when I met you. It is never too late.
Hmm.
And at the same time, your second or your not your second book, but the book we're talking about now, you are limitless, right? We are. And finding those things where we think we've got a limit and then
Hmm.
pushing past, it's so exhilarating and I can't I don't even have the words right this second, but it just changes lives. So yeah, I love that you wrote this book because when people can see that there is a role model, there are people doing things that maybe they didn't even realize people could do. Like me, here I was thinking that nobody, my age or older, was climbing big faces, big rock faces. And I'm like, yeah, they are. You just don't know about it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's really interesting, isn't it? Are
Exactly.
you,
It is.
so are role models something that you use a lot for personal or professional, or how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I prefer, you know, connecting with people that inspire me, right? So you really, I mean, every single person I've written about has inspired me. We've got Sister Madonna, who was in Never Too Late, who was and now a nun in her late 80s, still doing triathlons. I mean, she is a huge
Uh,
inspiration to me. And we've got Pat Gallant, right, who again in Never Too Late, who is a mountain climber, didn't start until her 50s, and she's huge inspiration for me. She just had so many fears and so many thoughts about I could never do this, I could never do that, but there she is, and she's scaling and climbing mountains. The people in You Are Limitless. I mean, Deirdre is one of the people that really was inspired by, but she had such an incredibly difficult marriage, just so painful, so painful. And then, again, later in life, she started with some running, she started with some 5Ks, and then she went on to marathons, and then she went on to, you know, climbing mountains. And I know that she's just returned from a trip in Europe where she was climbing in the Dolomites, I believe. And, she's still out there thriving, just thriving in her early 70s. And we all have that ability. It's not like they have some kind of secret source that we don't have, right? We all have that ability. We all have these amazing bodies. We all have these really powerful minds. And if we can kind of get out there and get a little support and get a little bump, get a little encouragement, again, that's where I think community is so important. It's just amazing what we can do. We are limitless in many, many ways. Yeah.
yes. So well, personally, I would just keep you here forever talking because I find everything you do fascinating, but I know that you're very busy. So please tell us a little bit about where people can find you. I know that you said you had some information for the crew that they can all download from the show notes. So tell us a little bit about that because I want people to connect with you and I want everyone listening to read these books. So
Yeah. So I have a website, katechampionauthor.com. Everything is on there, the books, the hiking guide, which you can download free. It's a great hiking guide, and again, it's encouraging, it's supportive. It does have a focus on women, women getting out into not just hiking, running, backpacking, right? Getting out there, getting moving. All my books are available on my website and also on Amazon, Amazon.com. Just kind of jump in there, do a search, Kate Champion Author. Anybody has any questions, they can email me, katechampionauthor@gmail.com. And then connecting Facebook, Instagram. I have both platforms on both those. I do have a back of the pack athlete Facebook community, which is
Oh, nice.
really for like-minded people, and it's a really great group of later in life athletes.
Okay.
When I say athletes, I mean people out there every day grinding, doing whatever, biking, swimming, running, hiking. There's a super supportive little community, and it's very uplifting. It's very positive. Once a week, I'll do a well check and I'll do motivational Mondays, and really, it's a really neat group of people that support each other. So check that out. Again, that's on Facebook, Back of the Pack Athlete. You can also link to that through my website as well.
We will link to all of this in the show notes too, because I want people to be able to find you. I want them to be able to follow you, and to be able to take in all the good that you're putting out there in the world, because I think you're really changing lives by showing people who are changing lives, and I appreciate that so much.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I appreciate all the work you do, and especially some of your adventures, your hiking and backpacking adventures. They look awesome. So maybe one day I'll have to sign up for one and tag along.
Oh yeah, we do have some fun.
That's
Well,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kelly. It's been a pleasure.